like you. Be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one.
The night descended gently over Seoul, like silk drifting through a half-forgotten dream. The last traces of sunset melted into the horizon, staining the clouds in faint hues of amber and violet. Rain had fallen earlier, leaving the streets glazed with reflection, every puddle a mirror, every light a secret. The air carried the mingled scent of wet asphalt and coffee, the kind that lingers long after the cafe has closed its doors. Among the blur of headlights and hurried umbrellas, one figure moved as though the world had slowed around him. A man in black, hood drawn low, steps soft and unhurried. It was him. Not the global phenomenon. Not Jungkook, the idol who filled stadiums and set hearts racing across continents. Tonight, he was just a man, walking through the city that had built him, lost in the quiet ache of remembering how to simply exist. His footsteps echoed faintly, a rhythm that belonged to no song but his own heartbeat. The streetlight caught the edges of his profile, the sharp jaw, the softness in his eyes, the way his breath fogged faintly in the cool air. There was something serene, almost melancholic, in the way he moved, like someone chasing a piece of himself that had slipped away somewhere between fame and loneliness. He passed the shuttered windows of shops, their glass reflecting fragments of his silhouette. Once or twice he caught his own reflection and looked away quickly, as if the man staring back was a stranger. Perhaps the question had been haunting him longer than he cared to admit. Am I still me? He stopped in front of a small record store. Its neon sign flickered weakly, the hum of the old bulb filling the silence. Through the dusty glass, a poster still hung crookedly on the wall. His face, years younger, with blonde hair and a smile that had once seemed indestructible. He stared at it for a long time. There was nostalgia in his gaze, yes, but also something heavier, a quiet sorrow for the boy who hadn't known how heavy his own name would become. Maybe what he missed wasn't the stage, or the screams, or the blinding lights. Maybe what he missed was the simplicity of being understood by someone, without words, without performance. And he knew exactly who that someone was. Jimin. The name whispered itself into the cold air, unspoken but alive in the rhythm of his pulse. He could still hear Jimin's laughter from another lifetime, that warm, quiet night on the dorm rooftop when the city sprawled beneath them like a map of dreams. You know, Kook, Jimin had said softly, his voice threading through the wind, the world can be cruel sometimes. But don't ever lose yourself. And now, years later, those words came back like a promise he had almost forgotten how to keep. Because how do you hold on to yourself when a part of you lives in someone else? In the way they smile, the way they say your name, the way their silence feels like home. Jungkook's hand slipped into his pocket, fingers brushing the cool surface of a thin black bracelet. A small silver charm dangled from it, a simple J. No one else knew its story. But he did. And every time he touched it, he felt tethered, not to fame, not to the past, but to something warmer, something real. The city glowed softly around him as he crossed the street, headlights painting fleeting patterns on his face. Even in anonymity, his presence shimmered, quiet, magnetic, impossible to ignore. A young woman walking past him froze, her breath catching as recognition flashed in her eyes. But she didn't scream. She didn't pull out her phone. She just stood there, eyes wide, lips parted in disbelief, before Jungkook met her gaze and smiled. It was a small smile, fleeting yet full of gratitude. A thank you for not taking his peace away. For seeing him, just him. She smiled back. Then both continued walking, as if sharing a secret neither would ever speak of again. Then came the faint vibration in his pocket. A message. Have you eaten yet? He didn't need to see the name. He already knew. But when his eyes fell on the screen, something inside him softened. Jimin. The noise of the city seemed to dissolve. For a moment, there was only the glow of the phone screen and the warmth in his chest. He smiled. The kind of smile that belonged only to one person. About to. You. A reply came seconds later. Same. Want a video call later? His fingers hovered above the keyboard. His heart whispered before his mind could catch up. Always. And just like that, the night didn't feel lonely anymore. When Jungkook reached his apartment, the rain had started again, soft, whispering, as if the sky was keeping secrets. Droplets kissed his jacket, sliding down the black fabric like threads of silver. He didn't rush. He liked the sound. Rain had always been his truest companion, cleansing, quiet, infinite. Inside, the world felt still. He hung his jacket, kicked off his shoes, and sank into the couch. The ordinary hum of home wrapped around him. The low buzz of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, the faint scent of detergent. For once, ordinary felt like heaven. Then his phone buzzed again. Incoming video call, Jimin. Without hesitation, he answered. And there he was. Jimin, in an oversized white hoodie, hair tousled, eyes crinkling into crescent moons the moment their gazes met. "Hi," he said softly. Jungkook didn't speak right away. He just looked, drinking in the sight like a man who had been thirsty for too long. "You're wet," Jimin murmured after a pause, his tone a mix of concern and affection. "Were you out again?" "Yeah," Jungkook's voice was low, tender. "Needed some air." Jimin tilted his head. "You and your midnight walks," he teased gently, though his eyes lingered with quiet understanding. "Did it help?" Jungkook nodded. "Yeah, I think it did." He hesitated. "I stopped by that old record shop near the dorm." "The one with the broken sign?" He smiled faintly. "Still there. Still broken." Jimin chuckled, soft and familiar. "Oh my God, that place. We looked like babies back then." "You looked like an angel," Jungkook said before he could stop himself. The silence that followed was fragile, suspended, a breath neither wanted to exhale. Jimin's eyes softened. "You still say things like that?" he whispered. "Only when they're true." Their gazes locked again. 2 worlds, 2 screens, 1 heartbeat. "You've been quiet lately," Jimin said gently. "Are you okay?" Jungkook exhaled slowly. "I think I'm learning how to be." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes I forget who I am when everything gets too loud. But tonight, I remembered." Jimin nodded. "Good," he said softly. "That's all I want, for you to find yourself, even when the world tries to take you away." They stayed like that for a while, just looking, breathing, existing. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of history, of comfort, of all the words they didn't need to say. Then Jungkook grinned. "You still haven't eaten, huh?" Jimin pouted. "I was waiting for you. Always using me as an excuse." "Always," Jimin said, smiling. They both laughed, the kind of laugh that only comes when the heart remembers home. They ate together through the screen, ramen and all, and somehow it didn't feel lonely. It felt like us. "By the way," Jimin said after a while, teasingly, "you look good in black." Jungkook raised an eyebrow. "You've been stalking me again?" "Do I need to?" Jimin smirked. "I'd know you anywhere." Something in Jungkook's chest tightened, a mixture of ache and peace. "Thanks," he whispered, "for always knowing where I am even when I don't." Jimin smiled softly. "That's what we do, right? We find each other." The call lingered. Neither wanted to hang up. Rain kept falling outside, soft and steady, as if the universe itself was listening in on their silence. When they finally said goodnight, it wasn't really goodbye. It was a promise. After the screen went dark, Jungkook sat for a long time, staring at his reflection in the black glass, his eyes calm, his heartbeat steady. Then he whispered, barely audible, "You're still my safest place." Outside, Seoul slept under a sky brushed with rain. Jungkook lay down, his hand instinctively brushing the bracelet on his wrist, the small silver J, catching the faintest glint of light. He smiled, a soft curve of peace. Somewhere across the city, Jimin lay in his bed, phone still glowing faintly beside him. "Good night, Kookie," he whispered into the dark. And even though Jungkook couldn't hear it, somehow, he smiled in his sleep.